the person, you are breathing in some of those droplets, you take in the virus into you. Also, those droplets can fall on the chair, on the table, and you can pick them up with your hands. And if you put your hand in your nose, you can pick it up as well. So once it gets into your nose, or it can also go through the mouth, it goes into your lungs. And once it gets into your lungs, you can see these bronchioles, these tubes, they extend from the breathing tube all the way to the lungs. They end up in these little sacs here. They are called alveoli. This little sac here. That is where, when you breathe, these sacs are surrounded by blood vessels. You can see these blood vessels here. These are blood capillaries. They surround this sac. And the air that you breathe in, the oxygen, goes through some cells here. They are called alveolar cells. They go through them and are captured by the red blood cell. The blood also releases carbon dioxide that you now breathe out. So when the virus is taken in, it ends up in this alveolar and it affects the cells. What then happens is that if you are unable to expel the virus at this time, if you are able to expel the virus at this time, you will just have mild disease. After a while, it will resolve. But if you are unable to resolve, if you are unable to expel the virus starts multiplying on all these cells. These cells, they form the barrier for exchanging oxygen and carbon dioxide with the blood vessel. You destroy them. And once you destroy them, they also form a fibrotic tissue around them. Then you cannot breathe anymore. It becomes difficult for you to breathe. So that is what leads to the respiratory failure. Then the person has to be on ventilators and assistant breathing. So there is also massive, because of the virus pumping out toxins and the cells dying, there is a lot of inflammation and fluid coming in because the blood vessels are now affected. They allow fluid from the blood to enter your alveoli, and that is called pneumonia. And when they take the picture, they say you have pneumonia. So all these your alveoli, they become filled up with fluid, and it can be quite dangerous. It leads to the death that we see among infected individuals. So it's a very serious infection. It's a very serious disease. It is real. Don't joke with it. And that is why later you will see some of the ways to prevent. You see, I wanted you to understand this initial part, the sneezing and coughing, where somebody who has it, we release the viruses, and how the virus passes through your breathing canal to your lungs and infect your lung cells. You can see all the lung cells. This is where you exchange oxygen and carbon dioxide. And if they are destroyed, there is massive inflammation, fluid coming here, you can no longer breathe well, and that can lead to death. So as at now, in terms of treating or vaccinating against this disease, there is no magic bullet. There's no one thing you can say now, oh yeah, when we have this, we can use it to prevent this infection, or to, even if you get infected, you will not have the disease because you would have been vaccinated and you have immunity. What the immunity is that if you are vaccinated, you have antibodies, you have T cells in your body. Once the virus comes in, it quickly grabs it and neutralizes it. So it no longer infects and destroys your cells. That is what immunity means. That is what vaccine does. The other way you can control this infection is by use of antivirals. It's just like if you have a bacterial infection, you take antibiotics. Antivirals are also drugs you take that that can kill a virus by a known mechanism. So the one that is partially effective that has been established for now is called remdesivir. It has partial effect. What it does is that it prevents the virus from replicating, because once the virus gets into you, it is dividing. And remdesivir resembles one of the building blocks of the nucleic acid, the genetic material called RNA, ribonucleic acid. Remdesivir resembles it. And the virus we now know, we just take it in, but once it incorporates it, it can no longer extend the RNA, and so the virus dies. That mechanism is well known. That is what it does. There are other therapeutics that are out there that you are going to hear. Some of them are anti-malaria, like hydroxychloroquine. There are even some antibiotics, azithromycin. There are some anti-inflammatory agents. There are immune boosters and others. Depending on the practice, depending on the physician, they have found some effect. But all these, the anti-malaria action of hydroxychloroquine is well established. A malaria parasite has a food vacuole where it stores the heme that is destroyed during the infection. Hydroxychloroquine prevents the formation of that heme. And once it does that, the parasite can no longer survive. A well-established specific antiviral action of hydroxychloroquine has not been established. There are indirect methods. They said it could work. For example, increase pH, so that but it's not specific. It's a general antimicrobial process. That is, you can pump, you can increase the pH, and so nothing grows there anymore. So, but there is no known specific antiviral mechanism like I explained with remdesivir now. It has an antimicrobial action, but it does it as a apart from anti-malaria, a specific anti-malaria action. The antimicrobial action of hydroxychloroquine is more general. It's not specific for the virus. You also have some antibiotics as well, like azithromycin. Azithromycin specifically is a broad spectrum antibiotic. It inhibits both gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. It inhibits them by preventing protein synthesis by the bacteria. Azithromycin, the benches where proteins are made in bacteria are called ribosomes. Azithromycin specifically binds to them. And once it binds them, it immediately prevents the protein synthesis by the bacteria. And once the bacteria can no longer make its protein, the bacteria dies. So any therapeutic that you hear that you don't have a specific mechanism of action, it will continue to go on. Also, hydroxychloroquine is said to be able to allow a lot of zinc to enter a cell. So it can have a general and maybe immune boosting, or there are some proteases that it can help to work as well. But those are all indirect mechanisms, not specifically antiviral, as I explained with you saw the of
Hello, Prof. Are you on?
them are being used to try vaccine. Some other people are even using the RNA itself, like we would have heard about Moderna. They are using the RNA by itself. It's a new thing, just like DNA vaccine. For DNA, you have to transcribe it to an RNA, and the RNA will become protein. Most vaccines that are not the intact organism, either inactivated or partially inactivated, they are made up of components like proteins or carbohydrates of microbes. But in the case of DNA vaccine, you take the gene or a part of a gene that encodes a specific protein and inject it, and it carry out the translation to messenger RNA, from messenger RNA, the transcription to messenger RNA, then from messenger RNA to translation takes place for you to get a protein. So, but Moderna said—
1 second, Prof. I'm sorry, please, to interject at this point. Some of us are not science inclined. And if we are here to really learn from you and ask our questions about this COVID-19 that is causing a lot of havoc today. If you don't mind, if I would please plead to make these high-sounding scientific work
less technical,
less
right?
technical. Yes, please.
Why I went into that a little bit is because there is the tendency to mix things up.
Yes.
So I wanted people to know that the basis for you to see some scientists insisting this is this, this is not it, is because there are known specific mechanisms that is working. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't dwell too much on them. But the thing is that for you to identify a drug, you have to establish a mechanism of action. And for most of these, they are still working on them. And the vaccine, they are still also working on them. So let's keep our fingers crossed. So in the absence of all this, or considering all these situations, the CDC and other official guidelines have provided some ways we can protect ourselves from infection by the coronavirus. As you can see, you protect yourself. This one is out of California Public Health, for example, is you protect you wear your mask. For example, you see my own mask. I will show you now. Where is my mask? Oh, I just removed it. It is important. Anytime you are going out, you are going in public, you wear your mask. It's because, as I said, you have some of these droplets, sneezing droplets, or talking droplets from your mouth, or cough. They have the virus, and you can breathe them in because they are very small. So, and stay a little bit distant from people. It's very important, especially somebody you are not from the same house. You've not been staying together for the past 2 weeks, 1 week. You don't know what they may emit if they talk loudly. So that is the basis for saying keep some distance from people. And when you just see somebody, you don't know whether they've been coughing in their hand or they've been sneezing in their hands or what. So avoid shaking them. Or if you go into a crowd where people can easily go into a choir, you go into a party where people are talking and the entire atmosphere is filled with vapor and other, people can easily breathe them in. And then you can see a fourth precaution: wash your hand frequently using soap. One of the reasons why they say you should use soap is because the virus has something like a lipid around it. And if you use soap, it can easily dissolve the outer covering of the virus. And since there is no coat around the virus dies naturally. So that is, those are some of the recommended precautionary methods. So the last slide that I want to give to you is a lot of what the urban legends that you have out there. For your information, the virus, coronavirus, was not genetically produced. There is a way we test for this. If you get a virus or you get a bacterium, any of the microbes, you can take its genetic material and sequence it and compare it to what has been there before. They have taken coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, sequenced it, and found that it's very related to coronaviruses you find in bats. You have a lot of coronaviruses in bats, and more than 500 of them are all out there. Once in a while, some of them pass through secondary hosts like camel, like cats, and since human beings interact with camels or with cats, you now get it. And during the time in the cat, it can mutate well in such a manner that human beings can now pass it from one person to the other. So analysis, sequencing of the genome of the coronavirus we have here has shown that it descended from the coronaviruses that you have out there, a lot of them. And that is why people are afraid. You actually have virus hunters out there who are catching bats and trying to isolate coronaviruses from them to see whether any of them is mutating in a manner that it becomes more infectious. So there are virus hunters out there, and I just pray that people continue to see their needs to be funding them so that they can identify some of these viruses, because they will keep coming. They will keep, as ecology changes, as human beings interact with animals, will keep coming across some of these microbes again and again. So the other thing is that coronavirus has no connection with 5G waves and radiation. It was actually very. There is no scientific basis for it. I don't know how. There was a video I was watching. I saw someone that was just shaking my head. It was mentioning few scientific words and actually comparing them to how a virus will emerge when the waves hit a cell. It is not true. It has no basis in science. And
yeah, Prof, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
We have a time for questions. If we allow Prof to round up very soon, he'll be finished in the next 5 minutes or so, and then we start taking questions, please, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll start taking questions in 5 minutes.
The other thing is that coronavirus can infect both the rich and the poor. It's not a rich man disease. I called my home where my mother is in Nigeria, and the person told me that there is no coronavirus in my village, Agnebode. I was so sad, and he was ready to really swear to it that they are fine. I hope the awareness is increased. The other thing is among the conspiracy theories, I put it this way: leave Bill Gates and Fauci alone. Let me tell you, infectious diseases are very predictable. There is a pattern of mutation. I told you there are virus hunters, microbe hunters, to see the pattern. You see whether the way the bug was 10 years ago, whether it's still the same today. and you infect a set with it and see whether the susceptibility today is comparable to the one it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 50 years ago. And if they are not, you can pretty much say, in the next 20 years, with this mutation rate, this virus can produce variants that will be able to infect human cells very well. It's a prediction. They are done every day. So Bill Gates was saying that this is the next frontier. This is what's likely to happen. They are very predictable occurrences. Fauci is a thoroughbred scientist. I respect him greatly. Even when I was still a student at Georgetown, Fauci was already emerging as a big voice for infectious disease and immunology. And my background is immunology, and I was very much, I was following him very well. Gates, I like the way he's focusing on disease eradication and vaccine prevention. I think if you have 107 billion, targeting 1 billion every year, or should be to eradicate poverty, and is giving out 100 million and all that. I think it should increase it. That is so that you can really make a big impact in the world. The other thing is, if you hear of any claims like Madagascar claim and all that, don't believe it on the face value. Ask the person. If somebody said he has a concoction for coronavirus, ask him what is the mechanism of virus inhibition? What is the antiviral mechanism? And for others, supportive things like anti-inflammatory, dexamethasone and all that, they are very good to control the inflammation that is associated with the infection. I wanted to mention these because these are common issues that are out there, and people believe that when you take a lot of this concoction, that everything will be fine. Yeah, it's great, but always try to find out what is it doing. Is this going to after the virus or just the symptoms that you are trying to control, so that your body can take care of the virus? So, well, I hope that little talk will stimulate a few questions. If you have some, let me know.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Igietseme. We are now ready to take questions. We have a hand-raising device on the screen before you. If you just we have.
Tell them to unmute.
Yes, of course. If you want to, if I pick on you, if I call your name, then you unmute yourself. We have Soya Joseph, please. If you can unmute yourself and then ask your questions. Soya Joseph. Prof, you can now show us yourself so that if you can stop the sharing, and okay, then so that we see your face and then ask you our questions.
Let me see.
Yes, Soya Joseph, you can now ask your questions, please. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Prof. Yeah. I very much appreciate your coming up with this and enlightening us today. We have read a lot about this. We have heard a lot. We have seen a lot. What is your take about children going to school, especially the young adults, from the ages of, let me say, 12 to 2022? That is from the middle school age, which is, I think back in Nigeria, they call it, is it the junior secondary school age to the university students? which are the college students here in the United States. So what are your take on this?
Okay. I think from the, let's establish, can you hear me? Let's establish something, is both the young and the old can be infected with the coronavirus. There is no coronavirus for adults or for, but in terms of severity, it appears the older people are more affected by the disease. Well, at the home front, both the young and the old interact very well. Somebody like me, I was brought up by my grandmother, so there was no way I would go to school that I would come back to my grandmother. So the question is, if you can create a school environment that will be safe, I believe that you can do this. Personally, to me, I don't know in terms of the cost or the how it will be managed, the logistics. I think if we can deploy good testing, frequent testing in school, it's something in addition to the lay down precautionary measures. They can experiment it from place to place and see what works before. But it's starting it everywhere may not be the way to go. Just see, maybe take some pilot situations and gradually see if you can extend it around. Because and also whether it will be something you can manage very well. I don't know if there is enough resources to test everybody at once in a country, or so. I think the logistics for it will be tough. The other thing that I think will be tough is to be testing a whole school, maybe about 1,000 people every week. That is another tough thing to do. So, but there are administrators who will be able to guide us along those things. But it is important to know that everybody can be infected with coronavirus. And number two, very important, is that there are people who carry the virus who don't have symptoms. So it's a tough one.
Okay.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay. If you don't have any follow-up question, we have. So yeah, please. Do you have any follow-up question to this, or you are fine?
I'm fine. The other thing is that we as parents, we are so worried about our children going back to school, and not just for the children coming back home. If they catch it, they are coming to spread it at home, and even the teachers too. I'm also very concerned about the teachers. Here in the United States, I know we have a lot more resources for testing and putting things in places to a reasonable extent. But what about back home? This is going to be tough. This is going to be tough. So that's where my concern is.
Yeah, it's.
And we continue to pray for.
Yeah, I think it's.
For us to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. We are heading towards 20 million in the country, in worldwide now. Over 600 people died, 600,000 people have died. So it's a tough one. It's, in Nigeria, we still, I know it's still very important. We are heading towards about 1,000 people being dead now out of about 4,000 infected. I think one big issue I see with the Nigerian situation is the need to rack up more testing. We need to test more. One measure of the severity of the situation that I have observed in African countries is the relatively low death rate. It's there are so many theories to explain why that is the case. Why some people believe the underlying malaria treatments that they have. Some people believe some of the weather conditions. Some people believe in genetics of, but black people in America have about the same genes as, or black people in Europe have the same genes with black people in Africa. So they are susceptible to it. So we cannot claim that in the genes of the African. So there are some of these things you rationalize and rest them so that you go to more practical, more tenable explanation for why a situation is. So it's likely the underlying frequent treatment for malaria may be one of the reasons for the low death rate we have. Some people have also tried to mix up malaria and COVID-19. COVID is real. It may be mixed up sometimes, but there are very independent COVID cases that have nothing to do with malaria. I'm in a malaria-free zone, for example, here. There are a lot of COVID cases in the state of Georgia. So it's, while in Africa or in the tropics, you may have confusion between malaria and COVID-19. In the Western world, where malaria has been eradicated, that confusion does not exist. So it's important that people don't mix them up.
Okay.
I have some questions, please.
Sure.
Who is speaking, please, so that we can pinpoint you?
Andy Oku is my name. Andy Oku is my name. Yes.
Andy.
Yes, sir.
I can't identify you. If you can, you didn't raise up your hand, so that's why I couldn't see you easily.
Okay, let me raise up my hand. Maybe you'll be able to see me.
No. Okay, very good.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead with your question, please.
Yeah, my question, I think I have two questions. Let me go for it. Let me ask the first one, the first question first, which is topmost in my ranking. From our experience here in Nigeria, I'm speaking from Lagos State, Nigeria. Looking at from the presentation Professor has just made, and what you have read all over the place, I think the consensus is that COVID has no cure for now. If that is anything to go by, we have a lot of people in Nigeria, the CEO of AIT, Dokwesi, governors of Oyo State, Makinde, Abia State, Okezi Bazo, and they host a lot of them, even of governor of Ondo State, and all the rest of them. They tested positive to COVID-19. But after some treatment, or after some medication, let me put it that way, they now come out to announce to us, to the whole world, that they are now negative. Does this not contradict the claim that COVID has no cure? That is number one. Then another thing that is making people to doubt in Nigeria is that when Chief Dokwesi, the CEO of AIT, was declared negative from his positive status, he came on air that throughout the time he was quarantined, the treatment he received was not different from the normal malaria treatment. So he now posed a question that the medical personnel, the medical scientists should tell him whether COVID-19 is the same thing as malaria, because throughout his treatment, he was given the normal malaria medicine and he became all right. I don't know how many of you listened to him when he said it. That is number one question. Okay, Prof, you may address that before I ask the second question.
Okay. The pattern of COVID-19 is that up to 80% of people who get infected, that is, you'll be diagnosed with COVID, get well, maybe few days and it's over. Your body defenses are able to control it. So in a city of 1,000 people, for example, if you take 1,000 cases of COVID, or people being positive, that means they have been infected. 80% of them will just go through it as if it was just little cold that they just had a few days. Within 3 days, they are gone. But if you test those people, you will find out that they were infected. So there is a difference between being infected with the virus and getting the severe case of COVID-19. So it is not every case of COVID-19 that is severe. Let me put it, I think that is a better way to put it. So that a lot of people are getting well is not a surprise.
I'm listening, sir.
Yes, that a lot of people are getting well is not a surprise. So whether they take, some people don't even take anything. They just take some supplement, they take some fluid, and they all get well. So it's your point about COVID being a terminal case is not true. It's misinterpreted, mispresented. It is also possible, especially being in that zone, in that high malaria zone, that people have malaria at that same time as well. And if the person is treated for malaria, and if the person's case was one of these 80%, within the next few days, the person is well.
But if that be the case, Prof, I think the right campaign then should be that chronic COVID-19 has no cure, but minor COVID-19 has cure. I think that should be the right thing, because that is what is putting doubt in the minds of Nigerians. We have a lot of them, a lot of governors, Elombah of Kaduna State, and a good number of them. They tested positive to COVID-19, but today they are negative. Then the question is, how did they transit from positive to negative?
It's not every case of COVID that is severe, but they are all COVID.
That's what I'm saying, Prof. That then the right information should be that chronic COVID-19 has no cure, but mild COVID-19 has cure. Okay, that is my first question. I'm clear with what your explanation, Prof. My next question is this. There is this, I think, African doctor. I'm not sure it's from Nigeria or from anywhere, but I'm sure it's from Africa. That's Stella Emmanuel that recently came on air, and then it was, I think her submission went viral. And since that time, I've been following the trend, and a lot of people condemn what he was trying to say. A few people are in support. But to me, I think either to debunk or substantiate her claim, I think empirical approach is the best. She claims to have treated 350 COVID-19 patients and that they survived. Okay, I think the government of United States of America can reach out to those 350 persons that had COVID-19 who have been treated, interact with them, look at their files to know whether their cases were severe or not. That is one. Well, anybody could have arranged anything. Alternatively, why not look for chronic COVID-19 patients? Give to this young lady, this young medical doctor, treat them, let us see. If you're able to succeed, then we'll go with you. Otherwise, we'll go against you. I think that those are the two possible approaches, either of them.
Okay, let me answer this. I'm not going to get into the controversy because it's purely out of the science that I want to focus on here. The thing is that I already told you that 80% of COVID cases, that is, the people will be positive, are resolved by themselves, whether you take whatever you take. So you now have the moderate cases or severe cases as well, about 10% of that may spend some time, and then those can resolve as well. Then you limit it to about 10% of the situation that will actually be quite severe as to require maybe long-term hospitalization and maybe critical care. So it is possible that different doctors treat different groups of patients. There are people who treat the severe cases, and there are people who treat the minor cases. Essentially, most of the minor cases, like you and I have established, we walk away and everybody will be clapping. So a little bit of rigor. I think that if you listen to Fauci, a little bit of rigor is needed when you want to evaluate a drug. It is not just because there are so many confounding issues that somebody you could have given that could have by himself resolved malaria, even if you are just drinking water, taking, eating more food and vitamins. You give the person agbo, you attribute the cure to the agbo. You have not ruled out the people who did not take agbo versus and people who did not take vitamins. And so when you want to seriously test for how a drug works, what you do is to do what they call the double blind. Apart from that, every doctor has a right on its own, if the patient agrees with him or her, to treat, to use a drug if when the options are limited, or if they just want for, and they can, the doctors can try whatever they want between them and the patient, and they can report it. But I think what Fauci was saying is that that is not sufficient to make it an FDA-approved drug for that disease, because you have not ruled out many other things that could have happened.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you very much. We take another question from, there is one gentleman, ECU, has been raising up his hand. Is he able to ask his question? ECU, is he still there?
Hello.
Yeah, hello, if you can unmute yourself, ECU.
No, I'm not ECU, I'm Joseph.
Oh, okay, well, Joseph, if we can see you, then we can spotlight you. If you can raise your hand either with your hand or with the device, so we can see you, please.
I've raised my hand.
All right, okay.
Let me ask my question.
Okay, ask your question then, it's okay.
I'm from Nigeria. My question is, we saw and read from the internet how one doctor, Manuela, was saying how he cured 350 people with chloroquine. Can the World Health Organization look into her details and see how that can help us rather than throw the matter away to the dustbin? That's my question.
Yeah, can I if I can answer that briefly, is that upon earlier advocacy for malaria, chloroquine to be used for COVID, the World Health Organization, the National Institute of Health in the United States, initiated clinical studies. All of them were stopped at midstream because more people who were on them. This is a well-designed clinical study now. This is different from what doctors said they have observed, that would have been what people have said. Some doctors say, I've been using this and it has worked for me. So, okay, if it is okay, let us organize a clinical trial. WHO gave the approval for it to be done. The National Institute of Health initiated one study. All of them were stopped in midstream because more people taking the drug died it does not say that people who are finding favorable results with it should stop. They should continue to do it. It's helping their patients. It's great. But as far as clinical trials that will lead to FDA approval of the drug, things have not panned out yet. And that is how people actually do this thing. There are international standards. If you make a claim, subject it to, see, the good thing is that this is happening in the Western world. If this had happened in some part of Africa or elsewhere, they will say, oh, the West is against us. They don't want our product to come to the market and all that. There will be so much conspiracy theory. You can see the West arguing against itself. Some doctors say we found something with it. Others say we did not. And they then say, okay, let's do a clinical trial. They sponsor the clinical trials, and things have not gone the way that people said they were. Take the other drug that people clapped for. Actually, somebody of Nigerian background like me, out of Ohio, I think a public hospital in Ohio, conducted or supervised the clinical trial for remdesivir, another antiviral. The mechanism, as I mentioned before when I was giving the slides, the mechanism of action of that drug is well known. That drug, number one, was able to shorten the time people spent in the hospital. People were on were on critical care. The time they spent was reduced by some days. And number two, fewer people died. Those are the measures. And because of that, remdesivir has been has gained a lot of plus. And but if you look at the data, it's just partial. But it is still about the best out there.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Hello.
We have another Ifoma Enwane, please. Are you able? Yes, Ifoma, please.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah,
Good evening.
If you start your video, I can highlight you.
From Nigeria, thanks a lot from just. Please, I have a question. Have there been trials or data concerning those who have recovered from COVID-19 to showcase whether they are still expressing the viral load or not? Have there been follow-up to show whether they are still shedding off the viral particles or not?
What I know is that for you to be declared let me put it this way. The symptoms alone are usually not sufficient for you to be declared COVID-free. The absence of the virus is critical. See, there are two things. Number one is to have the symptoms. And then number two, to have the virus in you. The two go together. As you are being managed, treated, they try to find out whether the virus is being eliminated as your symptoms are disappearing. So if what they have found so far is that the majority of people who eliminated their virus and are declared fine, the majority, because there have been exceptions, remain well. But there have been one or two cases, I think in the Korea also, somebody being reinfected. I'm not sure whether there were symptoms, but but they have been rare, the cases of reinfection. But the study going on now is to take antibody from the population. There's a lot of study going on to see whether people who recover from COVID, number one, whether
COVID-19.
COVID-19, whether their antibody retains sufficient antibodies that you can now even give to somebody with a critical case, which means they have antibodies that can cure somebody else. Those studies are going on. I think there are some companies that are really making progress on identifying people who recovered from COVID-19 and trying to collect blood from them, prepare immune serum, call it immune serum therapy. That is actively going on. I know that there are also some molecular immunologists who are proceeding to test some of those antibodies for affinity, for high affinity binding. There are some of them that are neutralizing, that is, they bind to the virus will be inactivated. They want to select some of those ones and actually clone the gene that is expressing them. Once they clone it into an antibody, a cell, and convert the cell into a factory that will be producing more and more of those antibodies. And so when you come in, you have an antibody that can easily neutralize the virus. And you have a lot and tons of it. There is a capacity to produce a lot of it, and it will be a really major achievement if that goal is achieved. Because while we wait for vaccines, that will be a quick way to treat acute cases.
Thank you very much, Prof. Please, is there a follow-up question from Ifeoma, please?
Yes, please, okay. Please, yes. My follow-up question is, for the person who was reinfected, if I can use that word, was there any test to show that it's the same SARS-CoV-2 that infected the person or another strain of the coronavirus family?
Yeah, there have been rumors about different strains circulating in the population. I am not sure whether those were, they must be pursuing them. Yeah, I am not sure if they did that. But I know that people have mentioned the possibility of different strains circulating in the population.
Okay. From our own Nigerian setting, we know that we have a lot of fresh herbal resources. What I mean, Nigerian herbs. And these herbs have a high high medicinal values, and they have a lot of antioxidants. They have micronutrients, including the zinc, including potassium, and other microelements. They also have anti-inflammatory properties. I am of the opinion that one of the reasons why, I don't know about other African countries, but I'm talking of Nigeria, apart from having low testing rate, testing issue, it could be that because we have a lot of herbs, fresh herbs that have all these properties, they may be helping to ameliorate these conditions that may have reduced the number of the prevalence of mortality in Nigeria. If we can exclude poor testing rates, what do you think about it?
Well, it's a toss-up. I think a time comes when maybe our setting, we need to really take things to the next level. Most of our products should not remain at the agbo stage. They should proceed to the next level to elucidate the mechanism of action and specifically what is acting. I took agbo as I was growing up, even when I go home, I think a time comes when we need to take responsibility for what we do so that we get the respect we deserve. Yes, there are things there, but to maintain it at the crude concoction level, I don't really agree. I think there is a need to take it to the next level. Let's support that. Yeah, please give me a second. Let me close my door, my outer door. Give me 1 second. Let me close my outer door.
Thank you for your patience, please, as we await the coming back of the prof, please. Just some patience. We still have a few minutes left. Hopefully we'll take all the questions before the time runs out.
Moderator, thank you very much for the opportunity to participate.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Host, I'm thanking you for giving me the opportunity to participate. Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much. We also noticed that there are some doctors here actually and some professors too. We would like to have your opinion, especially if you are based in Nigeria. Please, we'd like to share your experiences because we know you must have been treating patients who have these symptoms. Please, we will very much appreciate having your experiences from Nigeria as well. It's very, very important to us. Thank you. While we wait for the professor, I think Professor Cyril, do you have, I'll ask you to unmute Professor Cyril. Yes, do you have any contribution to make or is it a question? Professor Cyril, you are unmuted now, you can speak. No?
Yeah.
Hello?
Oh, pardon me, I went to lock my outer door.
Right, you're welcome back.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you still have the recollection of what you were about to say, or have you lost your train of thought?
No, it was a simple thing. It's
yes.
Joe never forgets.
Yeah. You see, at a point, we need to take responsibility. BCB, is that you?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's at a point. For example, is going to most of our setting for us to do serious research. You need 24/7 power. If you don't have it, you can romance and aspire as much as you like. I was telling you now that if you go to my freezer, some of the strains of microbe bacteria that I had 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I still have them. And if there is a need for me to compare what is breaking out today to what was there 20 years ago so that I can find quick solution, I have a setting where that is reliably stored and I can bring it out anytime. So if we are serious with our society, we can't provide that. If I become a VC in a university today, my first project is to have 24/7 light and water. If it's not, almost every other thing we ride on it. because I will do whatever I can to convince the authorities that without that, nothing else can happen meaningfully that will be sustained for the long term. It's okay to design curricula and do things, but for you to really move as a society, you need those two things in place in a reliable form. If Nigeria is serious about industrialization and without a supportive R&D from the biotech, from the engineering, from the biological, from veterinary, and all of them, in the next 20 years, we'll still be blaming ourselves about who is responsible, who is not responsible. To me, look, there are corruption everywhere in the world. They are going to find a corrupt, at any time point, go into a place and make something happen, so that you look back and say, hey, that was good. After all, mortality is real. Everybody is going to go. So why don't you make a difference in a society that you are, if you have the opportunity? That is my philosophy.
Thank you very much. We take the next question from Maximus Mojeke. You've been raising your hand. If I can ask you to unmute yourself. Maximus, you can unmute yourself, please. And you can also turn on your video.
Okay.
Yes, you can go ahead.
Thank you very much, Prof. and Mr. Moderator, Mr. Daniel. Hello. Okay, speaking from Anambra State, Nigeria. Actually, my interest, I joined halfway in. My interest is about the SARS-CoV-2. I learned it's a mutant virus. And now, people who get it, is there a way the immune system reacts to it that it doesn't occur again? Because there are few cases of people who got it again. And secondly, is there a possibility of our immune system getting adjusted progressively in such a way that at a time it will have an edge over this virus? Otherwise, is it just going to become a disease we'll have to battle with from now onwards?
Well, part of your question was asked previously, whether people become susceptible to become infected later after recovering from a bout of COVID. It's there are one or two cases that have been published that I've seen out of Korea. I don't know of any case in the United States that has been published. As I told you, there is this serum therapy thing. That is, people recover from COVID. There's a technology being built around it now to collect their serum and see if they can isolate high affinity antibody amongst them and use it for serum therapy down the street for people who will be infected. The virus has been stable enough for the body to for the immune system to address it to address it adequately. I think what happens to critical cases is that the virus does not give room for the immune system to arrest the infection. It proceeds so rapidly that the person is overwhelmed. I think that is one, and it happened with a very small percentage of the people. As we agreed, 80% of people who contract SARS-CoV-2 resolve it in a few days, within a few weeks. The next 10% may spend some time, but we still prevail. The last 10% are those that we are dealing with. The unfortunate thing is that, as you would have read in the literature, most of these people may have some underlying condition, maybe relating to immune response. Maybe they have a transplant and are already on immunosuppressant. You know, when you have most of the transplantation done now, is that the person will be on immunosuppressant almost for the rest of their lives. So if you are there and a virus comes in, you cannot respond to it as quickly as you should do. So there are so many issues that need to be built into why people succumb to COVID. It's more complex than the simplistic, oh yeah, this one died of COVID, this one did not die. No, there are more complex issues associated with COVID severity and death.
Okay, thank you. Let's take the next question from Emma Etuzale, please. If you can unmute yourself. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you, moderator. My simple question is why, for the first time, somehow, there seems to be no consensus among the medical community about the proper cure or therapy for this pandemic. Even though we know it takes some time, there is no consensus among the various scientists and doctors who would rely on to proffer some solution to mankind. And that takes me to the next discourse, that the entire controversy is fueled or driven by business economics, by the stakeholders in the medical and pharmaceutical industry. So, Prof, what is your take on this? Thank you.
Yeah, my brother, I think don't believe. That is why I tried to, in the slide that the few slides that I showed initially, I mentioned the conspiracy theories. The United States will not just allow millions of people to be infected with this virus and sit down so that over 150,000 people and die. The UK will not just sit down with thousands of people infected, with about 48,000 people dying. France will not allow the number of people that have died. Italy will not. So I don't buy some of these conspiracy theories that people are trying to make money. That is why they are hiding one thing or the other. Every medical substance is subjected to rigorous testing, and they are international. You can stay anywhere you are in the world. If you follow those processes, they will allow you do whatever you want to do with what you have. What we have here with COVID is not different than what came up when there was AIDS. AIDS came, there were no immediate drugs available, antivirals. Actually, the attention to AIDS led to very many developments in antiviral therapy. There were very few before, but because of AIDS and funding, a number of them, like this remdesivir that we mentioned, it was at that time that many of drugs like that emerged to control them. It's just that most cases, some of these drugs are so toxic and you don't want to use them and cause more problems out there. You want to use a drug that is safe, a drug that is tested, and a drug that you can, there are a lot of liabilities. So companies are not just going to just pop something out there because they see the first thing and they want to cash in on it. Not necessarily. I don't think, I know they want to make money. I know that the money is important, but quite often in civilized societies, what I have found is that safety comes first. Don't believe the conspiracy theories that more than 80% of people who get infected with this virus, and the virus is real, the infection is real, and a virus is one of the 3 or 4 groups of microorganisms you have there. You have a virus, you have bacteria, you have the fungus, and then you have a parasite. The viruses cause the common cold, flu, like this COVID. Those are all in the realm of viruses. If I'm, of course, now like cancer, there are some cancer that viruses can cause. Then you go to the next one. Viruses are mainly just the nucleic acid, DNA, or the proteins surrounding them. Some of them have envelope, some others don't. So a coronavirus happens to belong to the one that has an envelope surrounding it, and the nucleic acid is the genome, genetic material is the RNA. So after viruses, you have bacteria. Bacteria like the strep, like you have strep pneumo, you have some of these, you get a wound, you have a boil, and all that. Most of those are caused by bacteria, and it's the antibiotics can take care of them. Then you have parasite. An example is malaria. The parasite that causes malaria is called Plasmodium. Mosquitoes just carry it, and when it bites you, mosquito is trying to use its saliva to soften where it wants to pinch you to suck blood. In the process, it deposits the parasite into your body. 1,000 or 1,000,000 mosquitoes can eat you for the next 2 weeks. If you don't die of anemia, you will not have malaria. You need to have that parasite in you to have malaria. So these are basic microbiological that people should understand, because if you don't understand them, some people still think malaria is caused by stress. You can be stressed out all you like. If you don't have Plasmodium, you will not have malaria. Malaria is an entirely different issue. Your stress can lead to other diseases, other problems, but not malaria. So there are some of these basic things need to be well understood. If you don't understand it, you mix them all up.
Okay, thank you. We have a Professor Cyril here, please. We've been, if you can, you've now unmuted.
Sure.
Yes. Yes.
Hey, Prof.
Your network is not the best at this moment, I'm afraid. So we are not hearing you.
We are not hearing. Or is it muted?
No, it's not muted. I think it's the network.
Okay. Yeah, we're not hearing you.
His network is not nice.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, call somebody else. I'm fine.
Let's wait for the network to come back, and then we have Dr. Chuma Ebuji, please. If you can, yes, Dr. Ebuji, you can ask your question, or you can turn on your video as well, so we can see you.
Hello, are you hearing me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, we can hear you.
Good evening. It's been an interesting discussion, Professor Joseph. My concern, there are a lot of things that have been said about COVID and the role of hydroxychloroquine. But my concern is, maybe, is there one or two things that you can say that we will take out from this COVID era in Nigeria? What are two things for you that whether we conquer COVID or we don't conquer COVID, what will be two things that will be a takeaway from all this discussion today and in future for the Nigerian health sector?
Number one, COVID is real. Protect yourself. There are, for severe cases of COVID, it's not everybody who gets infected with the virus that is going to experience terminal or serious illness. There are a lot of people who are going to have the infection and they just ride it like regular fever. So it's not, but it's something to take seriously because you don't know who is going to get it and how severe it's going to be with the person. So it's people should really protect themselves because COVID can be, you don't know who you will transmit it to. And under such conditions, it's better to err on the side of caution. That is number one. Take it seriously. It is real. It is not, nobody is trying to take over the world. They say, I've heard stories of somebody, they say they want to control the world, they want to put chips in people's bodies. It's not true. It's not true. People, both Oyibo and other people are dying of COVID. So but it is not everybody who had COVID that is succumbing. You saw Chris Cuomo. Chris Cuomo is the CNN anchor. He has had COVID. He's fine now. You see him. There are some, who was the other person? Is it Richard Quest?
Yeah, Richard Quest.
Yes, he has had COVID. He's fine now. There are very many. It's not only in Nigeria where people have had COVID.
Somebody has it and it's well.
The majority of people who have had COVID have been well. The majority of people who have had COVID have resolved the disease. So it is not that it is a killer or it is a death sentence automatically. So there are even people who carry it and never get sick and they just eliminate it. A lot of people. So it is that is number one. Take it seriously because you don't know who might get it, but it is not a death sentence, an automatic death sentence. It is good for society to prepare for it because you don't know. We live in families, we live in communities, and it's bound to go around. And some people will, if some people catch it and they are very susceptible to it, it can really compromise their lives. The second point to make is that we hope that there will be therapeutics or vaccines to control it, but don't harbor all these conspiracy theories about people trying to control the world and how all that. No, that's not true.
We'll soon be rounding up. Thank you very much, Prof. We'll soon be rounding up. Let's take another question from Vincent Obala, please. Vincent, we'll soon be, if you can unmute yourself, you've been indicating you want to ask questions. Please, Vincent, your question.
Yeah, thank you, Elombah, for organizing this, and also thank you, Prof. Joe, for availing us of your time and experience. Basically, this is the topic of the moment. It's more sort of a comment, observation than a question. So I must say it was an excellent and wonderful presentation. One of the benefits that Nigeria has actually drawn from the COVID experience is that it forced our upper class to start looking inwards with respect to healthcare and healthcare delivery. We have a very weak health system, and what we've actually noticed since this happened, common knowledge, is that there's been a lot of the healthcare system has received a lot of attention, and for good reasons. And we just hope that when the story of COVID is told in future, when we look back, we said that this was the moment that the healthcare system actually took a turn for the better. And it's something to, then we'll be having well served if that actually happens. That is one. Then two, being a resource poor country, we don't have a lot of options with respect to access to remdesivir and what do you call it? The administration of convalescent plasma and what have you. So we use a good old protocol, chloroquine, azithromycin, and zinc that you mentioned. And personal experience has been working magic. But the key thing that we've noticed also in our system here is early intervention, early onboarding of patients to those medications. One of the literature that is out there about how chloroquine works is at the point of the viral envelope, the virus actually getting incorporated in the cells. So, and it stands to reason that if one starts that medication early enough, then the person stands a better chance. But once the virus has finished unpacking, back down here, if you belong to that small percentage that is going to take the severe turn for the disease, then it's going to be very, very difficult for you to survive, because down here we truly do not have enough resources to take care of severe patients. And that's it. So early diagnosis, and that doctors are also learning to, even if you have to treat anybody for malaria, you just remember to add chloroquine and azithromycin to that regimen. The other thing is also identifying the symptoms that will make people to really understand that they could have this disease. Like in some states, we've seen people develop symptom checkers, like you have self-administered tools, like 7 symptom checkers that individuals can run through these symptoms and determine whether they have the disease or not, or maybe early presentation to healthcare providers who we understand that they need to think about COVID in most of their diagnosis. So that being said, the one that will be a question is that, Joe, with your experience, the background in immunology and others, do you have any experience with vaccine delivery? Then if you do, are you open to collaborate with some individuals down here who also are looking forward to link up with people that can enter into maybe vaccine delivery? Because one of our professors here, a foremost dean of one of our College of Pharmacies, has actually pointed out that with respect to the mutation, there is potential, it's possible that when a vaccine is discovered for this virus overseas, that it may not work on our people down here because of the strain of virus that we might be exposed to in this part of the world. So it becomes important that a local work is done. So if you're looking for collaboration, will you be willing to point us to a direction? Thank you.
Actually, I attend some subject matter expert meetings sometime to review grants for the National Institute of Health. So we go, grants that come, proposals, research projects that come from different parts of the world. The National Institute of Health fund them, and they convene us to look at them and to see whether they are scientifically meritorious to be funded. What they do is look for people in different expertise. I happen to have some expertise in vaccine delivery, and because I trained as an immunologist, and following that, I was interested in infectious diseases because of my background. I was born at Agenebode. It's in Edo State, and we drink water from the River Niger. I have seen firsthand what that means. I won't drink it now, but I know I used to drink it. And knowing that infectious diseases are real. So maybe that was what really motivated my interest in vaccines. And I've been working, if you look out there in some of the literature, I've been working on vaccine against chlamydia and some few other organisms. And vaccine delivery is very important in it all, because you can have a vaccine, maybe the antigen, the vaccine antigen may be very promising, but if you don't have a good delivery for it, it will not work well. So we have some experiences in designing some vaccine, and I also know a few people who do the same. So if anybody is interested in collaborating, and there is a specific area that he would like to go into, maybe I know the person, maybe I've heard the person, maybe I would have come in contact with the person at some conferences or in some subject matter expert meeting, conference. So I am very open to assisting and supporting such endeavors. Actually, there was a time I approached the National University Commission to see whether we can help promote biomedical science in Nigerian universities. I like to, my undergraduate was at UNN. Yes, I had my undergraduate degree.
Great lion.
Yes. I had my undergraduate degree at University of Nigeria, Nsukka. So I left UNN in 1980 and then worked a little bit before coming to the United States to go back to school. So I would be very happy if somebody shows interest. I will point the person's way. I work with the government, so it's not too easy to. I used to be. I'm still in the academia, but I used to be full-time in the academia. I was promoted from instructor, assistant, associate to full professor in the medical school before I had an appointment at CDC. So I'm familiar with both systems, how they work here. If there is an opportunity to do something in Nigeria, I'm sure one Professor Bolaji Aluko is here. He coordinates some effort in Ekiti State. He was VC at the Federal University, Otueka.
I wanted to call, and I was surprised to see him here, and then we chatted briefly, but I think he has left. I wanted to call on him to make a comment, but then I think Professor Aluko, are you still with us? I don't think so. I think he left.
Yeah, so it's, I think, I believe that it's, he knew when I was making some of those efforts in Nigeria.
Yes.
You know, sometimes Nigeria, you try and try. Maybe some people are always thinking that you have motives or there is reason for what. There are times human beings, when you live in this world, you want something good to happen. When I crossed 50, I realized that mortality was real. I said, is it? So I'm going to go like my father. And it began to dawn on me, what does this life mean? What do you want to do? What do you want to be? Maybe you will be remembered. Maybe you know you are remembered, but how much can you eat as a person? How much can you? It's better to make a difference.
So Vincent, if I may interject, I'm well aware. I've known Professor Igietseme for like it's a decade now, 11 years. And I know some of the efforts, especially our Nigerians and diaspora has made to see if this collaboration will happen over the years. But unfortunately, we all know how Nigerian environment works. We know how our Nigerian government works. So some of these efforts have eventually not come to fruition. Professor Loko, we just mentioned here, he came back to Nigeria. Fortunately, when Goodluck Jonathan was in government, he appointed Professor Loko as the Vice Chancellor of the Pioneer Vice Chancellor of the University of in Bayelsa State. Eventually,
the Federal University at Otweka, yes.
Yes, Otweka, yes. So it's not easy. Well, if you are interested in collaborating with Professor Igietseme, we can very much, we can easily have that link up. If you have our contact, or if my contact, or you can contact me, I will link you up to him. Please, our time is coming to, let's take, there are people who would like to, please, 30 seconds, so that Professor Igietseme will round up. We have a team. What do you want to, we'll take all the questions at once, so that Professor Igietseme can respond to all of them in conclusion. So team, you have audience.
Professor, good evening, sir, from Nigeria. It's a pleasure meeting you finally here. Although I have been following, we have been using some of your works on our platform, but finally it's a pleasure seeing you and me.
Is that a network thing?
Yeah, it's a network thing. The network team, your network is fluctuating. Let's ask someone. When you get back, we get back to you. So Igietseme, Angela. Okay, team is back.
Before
okay.
you go, please, I want you to clarify a little bit low rates of infection. Yeah, Professor, you mentioned the relatively low rate of infection and death of COVID-19 in Nigeria, or in Africa rather. Please, I will want you to elucidate a little bit more on it, because it has generated a lot of controversy over here. We don't seem to understand why blacks are dying in America, but blacks are relatively not dying compared to Americans in Nigeria here. There have been insinuations about our malarial background and medications and stuff like that, but it's not certain.
Yeah, my brother team is.
I think it would really be fine to hear from an authority like you about really what could be the cause. And secondly, you mentioned Dr. Fauci, and I think you seem to have a likeness for him, or for his works, if I may say. But then I came across a report today that says that Dr. Fauci seems to be aware since 2005 that hydrochloroquine, or its parent version, the chloroquine, seems is capable of curing and even acting as a vaccine for coronaviruses. Can you please say something about that?
Yeah, the information is different. The information is not the same as what you heard. Doctor, there is a difference between a therapeutic, that is a type of therapeutic that you are discussing about chloroquine, and what a vaccine is. They are two separate things. A vaccine is not, a vaccine can be therapeutic, but in terms of chloroquine, chloroquine is going to act on a microbe just like the way antibiotic will act on a bacterium. So if you find out that antibiotic cannot be used as a vaccine, but if you want to say you can use it as a prophylaxis, that is, you can be taking it. You remember those days we used to take Sunday medicine. That is, you take Daraprim also. We used to take it if you want to travel, or if you want to prevent, if you want to go to an endemic zone, you can take it for a while before, but at a lower dose. If the prophylaxis use is what they mean, but not vaccine. What a vaccine is stimulating the immune system. It's an entirely different thing. It's something to separate very well so that you don't mix them up. With respect to the issue of African cases versus death, yes, there is an observation that one, you don't have to so much body bags all over the place. So if there is so much infection and people are dying, then you should see a lot of body bags everywhere. We don't have those cases in Nigeria for most African countries, number one. Number two, because Nigerian death rate is standing about 2%, 2.2%. If you see South Africa, if you see Ghana, from 1% to, so there is something fishy in the African continent. Among the cases that have been identified, that the death among them is between 1 and 2%. Unlike the US, for example, is 4-5. The UK, I think that is about 7. Several European countries, you even have some cases where you have about 12-15% death rate. So it is true that among the cases that have been identified, that have been recorded, the death rate in most African countries is lower than in many other Uyibo places. However, there is something for us all to understand. If you go to some of the charts on COVID, tracking COVID, check the number of the percentage of testing in those countries with respect to the population. I was actually anticipating this question, and I specifically zero in on Nigeria. Nigeria with about 200 and something million people. Go and check the percentage of the population that have been tested. It is so low. It is so low, you may even want to cry. So in terms of whether COVID is there, whether it's detected, there are a lot of cases. Yes, there can be a lot of cases there that are not detected because the testing is not going on. However, even with that, we still don't have body bags. That is the lock. That is, I don't know whether to call it lock. If people were dying so much of COVID, you would have found them on the street everywhere, the way our healthcare system is. So there must be something in our society that is responsible for the low incidence. But in terms of whether you have a lot of cases, no, we are not testing enough. That is why we have such low numbers.
And about Dr. Fauci, do you have anything to tell us about him?
Oh, well, yeah. Oh, yes. The case of, look, scientists respond to situation with respect to what has happened, what is happening, and what will likely happen. I told you in the slide that I showed at the beginning, I told you that infectious diseases, pandemic, are predictable. If somebody gives you the data, show you the mutation rate of a microbe over the years, where it will be in the next thing, and those things are tested in the laboratory, you by yourself will come out and predict that this is likely where it will be in the next this. Those were the pronouncement that people like Gates and Fauci were making when they were saying, oh, we expect a pandemic to occur, because the data was driving those conclusions. So it's not because they were aware of something or not. And with respect to the chloroquine, specifically that question, what happened is that I actually read that paper where somebody found that chloroquine could increase the pH of monkey cells, they were vero cells. I use them in my laboratory. If you treat them with chloroquine, they can increase the pH such that if you put a microbe there, the microbe will die. But at the same time, if you put any other microbe there, any other microbe will die as well. It's not just for you to test whether it was specific for a specific microbe, you should make sure that you rule out other microbes. So that was not done. So they found that they were just doing just one, I think some coronavirus. They were studying, somebody gave the report and said, I think Virology Journal in 2005, I saw it. And it said when you treat the cells with chloroquine, coronavirus titer came down and wanted to explain it and said one of the reasons was probably because the pH went down. He actually used one chemical, I think an ammonium chloride also, that increased the pH of a solution to show that that was what chloroquine was doing. So when COVID-19 came and Fauci was aware of that work. He had alluded to it before, that if things pan out that hydroxychloroquine becomes something that specifically targets coronavirus with known mechanism, yes, it would have been, he will actually be very happy. I don't think Fauci has nothing against chloroquine. I don't think so. It's just that there is no known mechanism that is established there that is specifically anti-coronavirus. Remdesivir, for example, is a nucleoside analog. When you give it to the cell will use it in place of adenosine. That is one of the building blocks of DNA or RNA. Adenosine is one of them. Remdesivir is an analog. We call it analog. It resembles it. So when you give it, it takes it in. And once it takes it in, the shape is such that it doesn't allow more of the replication to take place. And so the replication stops, and so the virus dies. That is the mechanism of action. So something that you will just pop into a cell or a person, or you use it to rub somebody like a disinfectant, you can't prescribe it as a drug for to specifically target a disease. We are not discussing using disinfectant. We are discussing using specific drug that target specific microbe by specific mechanism. As I explained before, azithromycin that's often used is an antibacterial. Bacteria make their protein on the benches of called ribosomes. So azithromycin binds to that ribosome, and so the bacterial messenger RNA cannot be translated anymore, and so bacteria cannot make protein. So it's a protein synthesis inhibitor. So all these, they look minute details, but they are very important for you to conclude that something is it.
Thank you very much, Prof. Please, we'll be rounding up. We'll take the very last question from Okezia Roma, please, quickly. If you can quickly ask your question, and then we round up.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know my hand has been up for quite some time.
Yes, sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hi, Joe. We've spoken many times on the phone, but it just has to be a transatlantic venture for us to really meet. It's such a great pleasure to hear you and to really educate our people on ongoing issues and the mechanisms that are associated with this. I just really want to leave with a comment and perhaps to see what you would say to this. And this centers around this cell antibody and the viral protein issue. Because as you quite rightly pointed out, if the virus protein is being produced and released. And then the body is reacting to this. We have this inflammation and inflammatory oxidative burst, which obviously is causing part of the problem. Now, that 80% is really where my comment is going. Is there anything that our people can do to increase that 80% through otherwise regimen that can be obtained without the medication? Because all you have to do, I'm sitting in a house in Los Angeles right now. If I was back home in Umuahia, I just open my door, I go and pick a fruit and eat it, and I'll be happy. We have so much endogenous materials at home. Is there any way you can actually try to suggest that we begin to look inwards to see how we can actually using dietary prophylactics, if you want, if you wish, to actually help us manage through this situation?
Yeah, I think you make an important point there, Doc. I think that I addressed it partially at one point, that we really need to sit up. As at now, I don't think it is sufficient for us to parade herbs and whatever roots and say, oh, this one will cure this, this one will cure this, this one will do this. There is a need for us to take a look now, whether you use HPLC or other separation methods to identify the active ingredient in what you are producing. For example, I reviewed about 2 years ago a dissertation out of was it Australia? Yeah, I think that was, no, this one was from India. I reviewed a PhD dissertation for the school. The person was working on neem leaf. I think that is the neem leaf, what do you call it? Dongoyaro. They isolate, they purified it, the active ingredient, to a glycoprotein. They call it neem leaf glycoprotein. And they wanted to know its mechanism of action. And the student undertook a lot of modern immunological, whether it could stimulate dendritic cells, whether it could boost T-cell responses, all sorts of, and it has some anti-cancer effect as well. So we were looking at some co-stimulatory molecules, what it was doing. That is, the dongoyaro that I drank as I was growing up has now been reduced to a glycoprotein as an immunomodulator. So I was pushing for them to go further, sequence the protein, and let's see where the gene is. And you can start mass producing that. And I think they said they were going to do that in the next round. But I was impressed by the fact that these people took dongoyaro and reduced it to a simple glycoprotein. They did a peptide fingerprint to see the composition, but there was a need for them to identify whether there was an intact gene producing that glycoprotein. So the summary is that I was not sure it was perfectly pure because it was an HPLC peak. So there is a need for us to move a little bit from these. Drug reaction is real. There are so many things that are real, and we can do better. I think that is my advocacy. When these things come, yes, I don't doubt their efficacy. I'm just trying to let us push it so that we know why they do what they do. And if we know that, believe me, we'll do better. Somebody told me something sometime that the Aztec Indians were chewing coca leaf. They believed there was spirit in the leaf. When they chew it, they will run off the money, the initial excitation and euphoria you get. They will run up the mountain and run back and believe the spirit has entered them. Oyibo man came, took the same coca leaf and distilled cocaine out of it. And it became, the coca leaf was now even useless. It's, I think there are synthetic cocaine now. So we should move. We should not stay with, I'm not saying coca leaf. Nobody said coca leaf was not working. It was working, but there was something that made coca leaf to work. The Aztec Indians call it spirit. And, it was cocaine that was there. It was a chemical substance that stimulates the body. There was biology behind it. And Oyibo man took it to the next level. And he's even selling it to you now.
Thank you very much. I had said we will take, that would be our last question, but we've been trying to get Angela to either comment or ask a question, but now she's back. Let's take that final, if you don't mind, Prof.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, okay. Angela, please. Yes, you're back.
Thank you very much. Yes, I've been having a problem with my network. I'm from Lagos, Nigeria. Yes, I really want to ask a question concerning the immune system of an individual who is infected with COVID-19. Because there's this rate of Nigerians taking herbs, different herbs like ginger, garlic, turmeric, green tea leaves, Lipton leaves, and lemongrass, because they said this builds immune system, and that the immune system of a person that has a very strong immune system is like it has an antigen against this coronavirus that the person cannot get it easily. And if peradventure the person gets it, the person is liking not to transfer it because his immune system is high. Well, I don't know how true is this, but being a professor of immunology, I want him to expatiate on this, that if a person with a very strong immune system happens to contact COVID-19, otherwise known as coronavirus, if the person happens to contact it, is there a fact or a realization that he might not be able to transfer it to another person? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, finally, Angela. Thank you very much for persisting to come back to ask this question. And I'm happy you did, because I also want to ask the professor about bitter cola. You know, bitter cola, ginger ale, lemon drink. We were told to drink this and that it will be fine. So, Professor, please. I even choose some bitter cola myself. So, what do you have to advise with regards to some of these things we were told to do?
I have heard that myself. I've heard that if you take bitter cola, it has everything. It is, you know, those days when we were going to Lagos for the first time, there was when you are riding the Danfo, when you are in Danfo, there are these people pop up with different bottles. They call their concoction bobo ishe. That is one bottle. They will tell you it will cure headache, it will cure backache, it will cure chest pain, it will cure eye pain, it will cure leg pain. So
romanticism.
But yes, yes. So if you look at all those things that are packed together, maybe they have one little thing here and there on it. Yeah, it goes to the cocaine story. Find out what is in this stuff so that people can better understand them. For each of them, there must be something that is there. Let's tear them up. Maybe if you increase R&D, research and development in Nigeria, if research is promoted, then there will be an opportunity to do more research on some of this. But I don't think it's easy. The way Nigeria is now, with the light and water situation, long-term research is going to be very tough. Thank the majority of the research you have in Nigeria at this time border on, oh, there's a disease. Okay, how many people? Okay, can you diagnose how many people has positive or how many people have negative? If you look at our universities, the 80% plus of the research that is done there is discussing how many people, they just use one diagnostic test to see how many are positive and how many are negative. And if some of people even push it a little bit, okay, if it is if it is maybe a microorganism, what strain of it is there? Is there a mutation in it or no? To go into basic research, that is where people get Nobel Prizes. Go into basic research so that you can find something new, because we don't have the infrastructure to support it. And if you don't, it's going to be tough. You will just keep, you just put yourself at the mercy of importation and maintenance and repair. Oh yes, I know how to do this, I know how to repair. Yes, but somebody put together what you call motto. Somebody put together what you call all the different original inventions. People put them together. And if you cannot work at the basic science level, everything else is basic and applied science level. Everything else will just be settled on just maintenance and importation. That's what you do.
I think, Angela, is your question answered, or do you want a follow-up question, or you are fine?
I said that I want to know.
Have you muted? Did you mute yourself?
Yeah, the phone is mute. It's on mute. You're on mute. You're on mute. Okay.
Okay. So, as a professor of immunology, if your immune system is high or very strong.
Oh, okay, that question. Okay, let me address that. It's generally for infectious disease prevention. If you have a good immune system, it's at two stages. The first one is innate. The other one is acquired immune response. If your immune system is strong, your innate response, that is immediately you encounter the bug, some proteins, some cells that are around, they just grab it and chew it off. It's like defending your house or your country. You put some people around that are walking around normally, and they carry guns, and once they see anybody, they can easily attack the person, and any foreign invasion, they can easily attack the person and just clamp the person down. But if they cannot do it, then you go to the second level, where you now start making big-time ammunition. That is the acquired immune response. You start making antibodies, you start making T cells that are specific for that threat. So if you have all this well in place, most cases, once you have an infection, within a few days, you clear it and you just move on. And it's not surprising, therefore, that 80% of people who get the SARS-CoV-2, which is the name of the virus, it is the disease you call COVID-19. So if you have the virus that has COVID-19, for sure, if your immune system is all right, you can clear it before it takes hold of you and destroy your lungs or have effect in it. And take note that it's COVID is not only a lung disease. Your gastrointestinal tract as well, it can go through, the receptor for it are also present elsewhere in the kidney. So it can do damage elsewhere as well. So you can result in some form of unexplained diarrhea sometimes. So it's not only a lung disease that you can find in COVID. Most cases, your initial immune system, your defenses, could not control the virus quickly. That was why. That is why people who advocate have your immune system in top shape, they are saying the right thing. They say, make sure your immune system is. But when you already have the disease, if it is then you start trying to boost your immune system, it becomes a fight between your immune system consolidating and the virus expanding. So it becomes tougher. Maybe maintain your hygiene, make sure you are well, eat well, rest well, and make sure that your underlying conditions are well managed. I think that will put you in the 80% bracket.
Thank you very much, Professor Igietseme. It's been a very, very enlightening evening. And the feedback we are getting both from Facebook, both from this our chat forum here, and those sending me private messages on WhatsApp, show that this has been a very, very worthwhile endeavor. And thank you very much for being our guest tonight. One final thing I will say is, what I get from you is that, is there any way we can talk this thing beyond being enlightened, being well informed? Because one strong point coming out from your presentation so far is the question of research and development. And now you are telling us that to have a research and development in Nigeria will be difficult because of power problem. You've just told us you have is it a virus, a bacteria you have cultured in your lab for the past 20 years and it's still there. That is because you have constant electricity, it's still being refrigerated. Now, my question is it possible for, seeing that we cannot have this R&D in Nigeria, is it possible for Nigerian government to say, okay, let us have some Nigerian researchers based abroad? Because you also talk of having our Dogonyaro, having our Bobo Nche, but we have not taken it to the next level mainly because of the problem of power. Now, can the Nigerian government say, okay, let us have people like you in abroad, we sponsor that research abroad so that whatever you develop abroad will now be used for the benefit of Nigerians at home? Is there any way we can set this mechanism in motion to see whether it can come to fruition? What do you think?
Yeah, that is a very, very, very good point you just made. Because it's going to take a long time to put the infrastructure in place in Nigeria that can support long-term basic research and translational research and R&D. And if in the interim, if people are serious, Nigerian government can tell people, say, look, we will fund your research as somebody in Nigeria if you can get a collaborator that you can work with on this project. Actually, earlier this year, sometime last year, from the University of Lagos, one professor sent the student with samples to our medical school here. The samples were supposed to have anti-cancer action. And so it sent them here to analyze them here and to interpret some of them here. I think she's working on her dissertation now. If they can do that, but you find out that she hardly had the support that would have been that the university there or the society there could have given them. Chinese do it very well. The Chinese will fund their student or trainee everything and give them some money for them to come to your laboratory.
Exactly.
And all you just do is supervise it. The person will learn the techniques.
Yes.
Will learn the method of how to do the design, how to develop the scientific thinking that lead to a product. But I don't know whether we will be serious with that. Before you know it, the confusion will enter the place. Somebody will say, oh, you want to use us, you want to do this, you want to do that. And then, all of a sudden, everything will fizzle away. I don't know whether they will take it seriously, but the point you just made is very important. And I believe some professors are doing it privately, like this one that just took place around me. Because when the student was working on a master's program, she came here as well, working, the professor visited once or so. There are people who take products out to go analyze them outside. But imagine having your own setting where to store that product, where everything about that product. How many things can you take out and bring back? Take out and bring back. It's going to be tough. Are you going to be storing your stuff in somebody else's refrigerator in abroad? So there are a few logistical issues. It is never too late to build up an R&D and research enterprise. People just have to be serious with it. And Singapore, in the last how many years, 25 years, I've gone through it. I know Singapore is a small country, but you can target about 5 universities and just concentrate on R&D on it. And you can get, make sure you have 24/7 light in those, 24/7 water in those two things. If you provide them in Nigeria, just take 5, 10 universities, it will start. I know, but with emphasis, my emphasis is in the academia, because in most countries, that is where the reservoir of original basic thinking lies. Yeah. It is from there, corporate and other things start branching, start feeding things to. So if you take 10 universities today, provide 24/7 light and water, I mean, in the next 20 years, Nigeria will be in a different place.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a wonderful evening. We appreciate your ideas. Hopefully some of these ideas will eventually filter into the people that make our policies and that make our laws. Thank you once again, Prof. It's been a very, very wonderful evening. Thank you, all our guests tonight who made out the time to listen to us. We appreciate your coming. And thank you very much those that asked questions, especially, and those that made some contributions. We look forward to having you again next time. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for bringing this up. This has been a blessing. Thank you so much, sir.